Hello there, friends, and welcome to this episode of the Legal Paige podcast. Now, today's episode is all about the Legal Paige rebrand process, my thoughts on how and why I decided to rebrand, and then also how important rebranding is to grow your business and grow as an entrepreneur. Now, many of you may know this, but we went through a huge rebrand process basically from spring 2020 through the end of June 2020. And I just want to walk you guys through what that process looked like as a business owner, what to be prepared for budget-wise, time-wise, and also the key rebrand team members that you should think about bringing onto your business when you are doing a rebrand yourself. So let's get into this episode, Legal Pagers. You're listening to the Legal Paige podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. As a reminder, before we get into this episode, I am legally obligated to give my disclaimer. So I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. All legal information I talk about on this episode is intended for the masses and a large variety of different businesses. I am only your attorney when you hire me and we sign an engagement letter for me to work specifically on your legal issues. Please feel free to seek out another attorney in your hometown if you need specific legal advice or contact me for more information. Alrighty, here's the episode, friends. Okay, lovely TLP podcast listeners. Today's episode, like I said, is all about rebranding. Thank you so much for tuning in today. As I mentioned in my intro, I am really excited to talk about the TLP platform as experienced this year and how it all came together at the end of June 2020. I always want to start out kind of rebranding and thinking about your business as a whole, what it looks like, the aesthetics of it, but also the feel of it, the emotions you're trying to evoke to potential clients or customers who not only land on your website, but also land on your Instagram account, download any free content that you have, your Facebook account, get emails that you have. All of that you want to have as a cohesive brand. Now, the reason I decided it was time to rebrand, and this is where you all really need to kind of start the process of thinking about rebranding, is it a good time for you to do it now? So the Legal Paige was actually born from the aesthetics of Paige Marie Photography, which was my original business that I owned. I was a photographer in Western Montana. I still do some photography, but not as much. And I was a light and airy photographer that was very colorful. I had lots of pinks, light pinks, blush pinks, and then lots of bright colors as part of my editing style. And of course, that evolved into the whole Paige Marie Photography brand aesthetic. And because I started the Legal Paige while I was still also very much being a part-time / full-time photographer, I just naturally was attracted to bright colors and pink. And so the Legal Paige was actually pretty like bubblegum pink, bright raspberry, and very feminine and girly. And after I started the Legal Paige in 2018, the end of 2018, and kind of by mid-2019, end of 2019, I was really starting to realize, and what took root was I lawyered very differently than how I acted as a photographer. And that is okay, you guys. If you are thinking that you own two businesses and they are very different in how you run them or what you want the aesthetics of them to look like and the overall brand to feel, that's totally fine. And it really just all came to fruition because I was realizing that the pink and the femme feel was not entirely inclusive to male entrepreneurs or, the less bubblegum pink female entrepreneurs or photographers as well that were kind of a more dark and moody style that weren't just like light, bright, and airy wedding photographers like myself. The Legal Paige just really started to expand because we were producing contracts and free content to a multitude of not only photographers, but wedding and event professionals, and then online entrepreneurs as a whole. And I realized that I wanted everyone to land on the Legal Paige website and platforms all across social media and feel like it was a good, safe space and place for them to get their legal source of truth from. And, I was really attracted to like coffee colors, darker tones. And I just knew that, the PMP aesthetic that I originally had just really wasn't what I ended up wanting for the Legal Paige. And after a while, I was like, okay, I started thinking about it at the end of 2019. And then beginning of 2020, I was like, we really need to think about a rebrand. And of course, this was all before COVID. So luckily, I kind of got in with a bunch of branding professionals prior to March 2020, when then they got really, really busy because everyone was at home and wanted to rebrand and work on website stuff as well. But really, I want you guys to just think about, not only is it, okay, an opportune time to rebrand, like you have a lot of extra time right now with, working from home, being remote, so on and so forth, but is it the right time for you to rebrand? I hadn't done a rebrand in about 2 to 3 years, so that was pretty important. The Legal Paige hadn't changed since when I started it. I also, realized that I needed to change my aesthetics pretty drastically. And I will talk about this a little more, but my branding strategist at the end of 2019, I couldn't get in with her because she had a wait list, which is a good thing. But she told me, we're probably going to change pretty significantly from bright pink, raspberry, girly colors to a little more neutral palette. And so she just told me, maybe start making small changes yourself on your website and on your social media to bring in more neutrals and phase out the pink and the bright colors gradually, so it's not such a drastic change. And that's important because if you're thinking about rebranding and you do want to do such a drastic brand redesign, logos, color scheme, patterns, I would definitely look into a phased change versus like a bam, we have a whole new rebrand, a whole new website. This is what it looks like. And you didn't give anybody time to process that change and you just do it like boom, right away. I would not suggest that. And so if I could give you any advice, if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're thinking about rebranding, make sure it's a really good time for you, that you haven't rebranded, within the past year at least. I would say 1.5 to 2 years is a good time to think about it. And then, of course, more than that. So anything more than 2 years, I think you're safe to rebrand. But you want to give people time to be prepared. And of course, you want to promote that you are launching a new, brand aesthetic or maybe a new website. And with that comes time. You want to give all of your audience and followers time to prepare for such a big change. Now, I knew, of course, that I needed to change a lot. I wanted the Legal Paige to just really it was starting to grow drastically at the end of 2019. And then, of course, 2020 hit and the Legal Paige grew even more, with everyone needing legal resources and help all at the same time when COVID hit. So I lucked out in getting a really good brand strategist before COVID hit. But is there ever a good time? The one thing as well that I want to mention is budget. You can't just be like, oh, I want to rebrand, I have time to do it. But do you have the budget in the bank to do it? I would say make sure you have at least $3,000 to $5,000, if not like $3,000 to $8,000 in your rebranding budget. Because as things come in, and I'm going to talk about the different team members that you may need to onboard as contractors that will work for your business, for the rebrand process, there are hiccups that can come up along the way. You may need graphic help. You may need copywriting help. There may be a lot of extra things that you just don't have time for, but you're working within a very, very set time frame with these, the website designer or the branding person that you hired, you're going to want to be prepared for that. So have a little bit of cushion in your budget, but I wouldn't say if you're like a $1,000 to $2,000 budget for a rebrand, I would say wait. Give yourself some time to build up that rebrand budget so you can do it the right way, because I have rebranded my businesses quite a few times. And at the end of the day, you just don't want to spend hours and hours and hours working on the rebrand and then come back 6, 8, 12 months later and really not love it as much as you wanted to. And that really comes with working with the right people and having the right budget for it. So make sure you have the right budget and then block off time on your own calendar. You want to have, I spent probably 200 plus, 300 plus hours on my rebrand. If I'm looking at, the 4 or 5 months, I really focused in on it. But you're not going to spend that much time, I promise. You'll probably spend, at least I'd say 40 to 80 hours on your rebrand, a couple of weeks worth of time. And give or take, that's probably spread out between 1 to 2 months. But block out that time on your calendar because you're going to be reviewing and editing and working with your rebranding team. And then alongside, coronavirus, and we have a lot of time at home now, I think now is a really good time to rebrand if you are ready for it. If you have the budget for it, if you have the time for it, for, like I said, blocking off time. And then we have more time with, behind the computer, behind the screen. And you need a lot of that time just to sit and work on your rebrand process with your team. And all of that comes together to give you the option to either now is a good time to rebrand, or I think I want to wait a little bit and do this the right way. That is where my headspace was. And I was ready. I was ready to pull the trigger. And then what do? You need to hire the right team members to build this vision that you have. We wear all the hats in our business, right? We're the chief creative officers, the chief legal officers, the chief communication officers. Usually we're producing content, whether that's photos or video or, I don't know, you're an editor, you're a florist, like you're producing some type of either product, tangible or digital product. And you're the visionary, right? You have all of these grandiose ideas. But the one thing I will say is I tried to do branding redesign on my own in the past. Paige Marie Photography has been in existence for about 8 years. And those first 4 years of business, I had a tight budget, but I did things myself. And I really, truly feel like I did not do them the right way. And I could have done them much better if I would have just invested a little bit of money. And then that would have had an ROI times 5 or 10 compared to maybe having like a times 2 ROI. And that's a return on investment for all of you who don't know what ROI means, but that's what it means. I use it a lot as a manager that's managing a bunch of finances and budgetary things with the Legal Paige. But I'm thinking about ROI a lot because you always want whatever you are inputting in your business to have a good return. And especially with rebranding, it's important. You're not just going to do it because it's pleasing to you aesthetically, or you're just not happy with your website. That is not a good mindset to go in with rebranding. You want to have a point. What is the entire point of the color scheme? What is the entire point of the photos? What is the entire point of the copy? How are you translating all of that from the website to all of your other platforms that you're on, all of the other content you produce? Is it super cohesive? And will that always have a return in some way, shape, or form, whether that's email list building or actual clients hiring you, purchasing downloadable products on your website, what have you? I am just now going to go into this team because I just told you why it's so important to hire this team. You don't want to do it all yourself. Please note that. You can do some things yourself, especially if you are on a budget. But I don't want you to be on such a tight budget that you are doing all of these things together. But I don't want you to be on such a tight budget that you're doing all of these things yourself, because I don't think that is going to have a really good end result for you rebrand wise. So the first person you should hire is a brand strategist. And I first knew I wanted to work with Kindly by Kelsey because I met her at the Creative at Heart conference. I had known many of my colleagues in the online industry work with her. I knew she was a genius at what she did, and she was just a visionary. I also knew she was very type A, which is someone I really wanted to work with because I'm type A as well. But she stuck to her deadlines. She was very, very, very professional. And I had interviewed a few brand strategists besides Kelsey just to ensure that I was making the right decision. So make sure when you guys are looking for branding people or graphic designers who are going to build you a new logo, color palette, fonts, you want to interview people and really have a good feel for them because they are honestly taking the questionnaire that they send you and asking all these questions, and they're building it into the overall aesthetic and look of your business. And it's important that they understand that and you feel comfortable with the person who's going to be doing that because they have basically all of the power. Once you give them the information, they really need to, have the background and the education to create a very specific and cohesive color palette, font, suite, everything, all of the icons, all of the patterns, all of the elements that make sense for your business. I loved Kelsey. I loved her initial client meeting. She really walked through not only her entire process and what that looks like, but why, she has a waiting list and she couldn't squeeze me in right away. I actually was thrilled to hear that because she didn't just take, a friend or someone who may have notoriety in the industry or something along those lines and push them in front of her other clients. She treats all clients the same and she has a very specific way she works. And I like that because I was like, I get these 2 to 3 months with Kelsey and that's it. And I have to be all in for when she is ready to work with me. So I got on her wait list late last year in 2019. And I was set to work with her in mid-April to start our rebrand. And like I said, it was tough to wait, but it was super worth it. Not only because being on a wait list meant that Kelsey was super sought after and I knew she would do a phenomenal job, but this is the good thing if you get on a wait list with a brand strategist because they are really busy right now. I know it's a big thing to do with all of us working remotely at home, but it also gave me time to really think about the rebrand and the other team members I wanted to bring on. It gave me time to do that, time to interview people, time to find and create the right rebrand team. Now, note, if you're listening to this episode and you're a newer entrepreneur, I know that you're not going to have all these people on your team. You will probably just start with a branding strategist, someone who maybe just helps you with minimal branding elements like logos, fonts, and colors, and that's it, and doesn't provide all of this other graphic and design help that, say, Kelsey helped me with. Because I, had a larger package that I booked with her. And then I had a lot of add-ons that I needed her to create for TLP. But I would just start with someone who does branding strategy and can create those very, very small things like a new logo and maybe a sub logo, a new color palette, and a font suite for you. And then you want a website designer. Those two people are very, very, very crucial for a rebrand. And I didn't want to miss out anything this time around because like I had said, I had done some rebranding projects throughout my time with my photography biz and with the Legal Paige as well. You really want to love the end result and you're putting your time, way more time than money into it, I would say. And you want to just be totally in love with the end result and you don't want to go back to the drawing board in a year. So I made it a point to hire Kelsey. I had this block of time from the end of November 2019 till April to ensure that I had the best of my rebrand team so I could be 150% happy with the end result for the Legal Paige for many years to come. And I didn't want to have to go back to square one and start all over, tweak things along the way. That wasn't worth it to me. I am someone who compartmentalizes as well. And I need to have this project done before I start the next project. All right, so let's just start with Kelsey. She's a brand strategist and a designer at Kindly by Kelsey. You can definitely go look her up. And in the show notes, you guys, I'm going to link all these people because they need all of the kudos and credit, and you should definitely go hire them or look into hiring them. So I got on Kelsey's waiting list, and then she sent me a questionnaire prior to starting. So I would say that was like mid-March, end of March. And then she did the overall logos, colors, fonts, and accent elements. She built those off of my questionnaire. And what was lovely is I truly felt like kind of a business who had a big marketing team that worked for me because she ended up doing 2 options. So she does a brand reveal, and Kelsey did an entire presentation. It was lovely. It took about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and she sat down with me and gave me 2 options of a brand and told me why she chose this, how it went with my questionnaire. She did a lot of research on my brand and what it could be, what it should be, what she thought. She brought in a lot of her brand education and design education. Of course, she's a graphic designer and went to school for that. And then you got to choose the one that you wanted. So I, really sat down and I was like, oh, I really, what is your gut reaction? Which one feels more like you? Which one felt more like the Legal Paige? And then you can tweak it. So I found the one that I wanted and I chose one of the 2 options that she presented to me. And then I tweaked the one I loved the most, the logos, the sub logos, the colors we tweaked just ever so slightly. The fonts I all really love, so we didn't ever touch those. But mostly the logos and the colors just ever so slightly, and we made them perfect. And then Kelsey puts all of that together and starts on all of the branding elements like tangible items, cards, stickers, mugs, pens. We didn't have those, but we had lots of paper products. And then highlights. So Instagram highlights, she did IG story and post templates. She did a lot of blog templates for us. She did all of our products templates for those so that we could create them in Canva as a team. And that took her time. So that took her about a month or 2. And we just went down the line of priority of all of the different things that I needed for the Legal Paige that had to do with changing all of our branding. And a lot of them was like opt-ins, PDFs. We wanted all those to be cohesive. So that was kind of the process that I worked on with Kelsey as the brand strategist. She's a brand strategist or a branding designer is the first person I would hire if I were you. Then Kelsey introduced me to someone named Lauren Carnes. I had no idea that this type of person existed. I had no idea I needed it. So if you learned anything from this episode, I hope you realize what a communication strategist is and why they are important to consider as a rebranding team manager to add to your team. So Lauren Carnes is a communication strategist, and it ended up being the best hire through the whole process. Obviously, Kelsey was great. Megan was great. Anna was great. Jules was great. I'm going to talk about all of them. But as a, whole, Lauren was just one of the most integral people to make the rebrand what it was. It was like I had another high level thinking, big picture thinking brain to work with me and be like my right hand woman, talk through things with them that, Lauren is like me. She's just thinking of the whole picture of my website and my social media platforms and everything the Legal Paige produces versus just working on like Kelsey is an expert at brand design, colors, logos, but Lauren was able to work with me on, okay, why is it like that? What is the point of that? How does that color speak to people who land on my website or platform? And Lauren has a background in communication. She's worked with large corporations on their communication teams. She focuses on ensuring that, whenever a potential customer or client lands on your website, that you are consistently communicating to them in the right way. And of course, she works not only with communication, so of course, copy and wording on your website, but also she was very, very instrumental on the flow of how the website felt to a person who had a legal question that needed it answered and all of the different, legal needs that someone would have landing on the legalpage.com. The emotions evoked in the photos that we produced, the feel of the branding, and then the overall ease of use of the website for somebody that was clicking around. So Lauren was pivotal for a successful new brand and website because she took the lead on it. it was really nice to have someone else. I could be super, super high level thinker, and then she was right underneath me. I was the owner. I was a little bit, when you're too close to your genius, you're too close to what you love the most. I'm the owner. I am the creator. I am the visionary behind the Legal Paige. I am also the lead attorney behind the Legal Paige. And so sometimes I'm just wearing my legal hat too much. And Lauren would help me as a communication expert with changing the tone of legalese into, okay, Paige, this is actually what people are going to understand when they land on the legalpaige.com. So with a communication strategist, you're probably going to have like monthly meetings. So with her, I was able to have 2-hour monthly meetings a month. And that was really nice to just kind of I had one-on-one time with her to just ask all kinds of questions. It was kind of like a business coach too, which is nice, but from a very, very communication heavy perspective. Then we would Voxer, which is a walkie-talkie app. If you guys don't know what Voxer is, you should definitely get it. But we would Voxer back and forth all week long. And when I had issues or Q&A, she'd help me come to the best conclusion and solution for the rebrand process. And then Lauren also works really, really well with team members. So she took the reins of working with Kelsey for branding, Megan for the website, Anna with copy, and she even helped tweak the copy from, of course, an overall bird's eye view communication perspective when it was ready to review. So communication strategist, go look it up. Huge, huge, huge hire for my rebrand process. And I would say the best thing I did. And then you guys all are like, Paige, but what about the website? Yes, it's so important to get a website designer, you guys. So this was a thought process again. At the beginning of 2020, I actually had time to think through. So I knew that I needed to switch to an e-commerce platform. I was on Showit. Yeah, Showit. I love all my Showit people so much. I love Todd and, the wonderful company he created. I'm on it with my photography business still. I go to the Showit United conference. I've spoken at it. I am just a huge proponent in the Showit platform. If any of you are looking to move to a platform, Showit is so wonderful and so easy to use. And so I had this pull in me. It was really, really hard for me to switch from Showit because I just love them so much. I knew so many people that worked on Showit. And you guys, I already had a phenomenal website designer, Sarah with Digital Grace Design. Definitely go check her out. Sarah is a phenomenal website designer, but she works primarily with Showit. And I had custom created like catalogs and products and add to cart buttons in Showit. And Showit's just not meant to be an e-commerce platform. You can use it, and you have to do like a bunch of custom, embed codes and things. And it's not challenging. But at the point at which I went from like 20 products for the legalpaige.com in, like selling contracts and legal forms and documents and just all kinds of templates to having 100, 150 plus products, I was manually adding them to Showit, and it just was turning into a hot mess. So I had this pull of like, I don't want to leave Showit, but I know I need to leave Showit. Oh, what e-commerce platform do I go to? I did some research. There's WooCommerce. Of course, there's Squarespace. There's tons of other options. And I knew I was probably going to have to move away from Showit despite my very, very sad attitude towards that. But Megan Martin, I interviewed so many website designers. I had a couple that I was like, oh, I really want to work with you. And many of them were like, yeah, let's keep you on Shopify, because I was on Shopify Lite for any of you who are kind of starting e-commerce type digital downloads or something like that. Shopify Lite is about $9 a month, and you can create the products and then you just embed code them like into your website platform, which is what I did for Showit. And that was all fine and dandy until I had, like I said, a ton of different products. And so when I was interviewing website designers, I would tell them like, here's my predicament. Honestly, at the end of the day, I just want to start adding products in because we create products all the time for, give the people what they want. If they want X, I will create it if it makes sense legally to produce such a product. And I just wanted to create the product, add the description to Shopify and then it to automatically go on my website. But that's not how it went. And with all of the manual back and forth, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And Megan Martin with Megan Martin Creative was the next big contractor that I hired. I wanted to find the right person that was not only within budget, but that knew what I wanted and could produce that e-commerce platform that I needed for TLP. And then what hooked me to Megan was I started, asking her questions, and she would ask me questions about TLP and the products. And she was like, give me your logins for, Google Analytics, give me your login for Shopify. I'm just going to look at everything from the back end. And her expertise in that area really drove us to a Shopify website platform versus like WooCommerce and other options. And because Megan took the reins of like telling me, okay, I'm going to look into the back end of like, does your blog really matter? Do we need to stay on Show It? What are these redirect links are going to look like? Is it going to be a big hassle? Is it going to mess up your Google Analytics? What is the ease of use for people landing on your website? How is this going to be easy for you and your team to continue TLP and growing TLP the way that it has? She took all of these things into account and decided we're going to move to Shopify. And then she ran with it. So her and Lauren Carnes, my communication strategist, and then Kelsey, my branding strategist, worked together to create all those pages on the website at thelegalpaige.com that you see now. And all of that is actually on Shopify, if you can believe it. And the one thing, bless you, Megan, I adore you, is it's a very archaic and really not super friendly website platform. That's hence my love for Show It, because it's super easy. It's like drag and drop. That is not Shopify. But Megan did not let that stop her. She just went above and beyond and really ensured that the final website was exactly what TLP needed. And Megan's process was very much like, Paige, I need you to have everything done for me. So she wanted the branding elements done, the colors, the fonts, the logos, the photos, and all of my copy before she started the website. And so once she created pages, as she was creating pages, instead of giving me the whole website to review at one time, she started with the homepage, and we made sure that was like, of course, where people would land immediately. She wanted me to love what the homepage scroll looked like, and then would put the rest of the pages together to match. So every time she created a page, I would review it. We would finalize it, and then boom, she would move on to the next one. We have a lot more pages on our website than some people do. So you guys just like, don't freak out if you're listening to this. You might have like 5 pages, right? A home page, an about page, a services page, maybe galleries if you or videos if you're a photographer or a videographer, and then a contact page. Like, you don't really need a ton of pages. We just have a lot more click-throughs. We had a start here page, and then we have about 200 downloadable products. So Megan had to make collection pages, and she had to make individual product pages that were customized within Show It. And then my team and I had to go in and change all the coding in Shopify to fit her product pages. And we changed all the photos in Shopify to match the new branding design. So it was a lot of work for the new website, but it was so worth it. Megan was incredible to work with. She researched things on her own when she didn't know the answer, and like maybe we needed to add in some app on Shopify to make XYZ easier to use for a customer, or to make the checkout process easier, pop-ups easier. And then overall, you guys, Megan created a beautiful and super on-brand custom Shopify website, and really helped me determine the most important thing, which I continually drilled into my rebranding team, was ease of access and use for people who landed on my site. When you landed on Show It, there wasn't a search bar. It was so hard to kind of like click through and navigate, and we had to do all that manually. And I just wanted this e-commerce website to be like, boom, 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 click here, find your product. Click on the different tabs to see what's included, add to cart, boom, purchase, you're done. It's downloadable in 5 minutes. So here's who we've talked through so far. My branding strategist, Kelsey, my communication strategist, Lauren, and then of course my website designer, Kelsey. The other 2 people you need to consider are a copywriter and then a photographer and or videographer who's going to help you with photos and videos. Let's start with a copywriter. This is a hire that you can do yourself, and so you don't have to hire someone. However, remember, you are an expert in your field, and copywriters are hella experts in what they do. You guys, I write for a living. Like, if this gives you any idea of how important a copywriter is, I am trained to write. Lawyers read and write all day long. I am also pretty decent with speaking and with producing like interesting, copy to read on my website and my social media platforms. But at the end of the day, I am a legal expert. I am not a writing expert, and they are trained to do just that. So at the early 2019, so we're going back a ways from when I started my redesign process, I hired a copywriter. I just knew I needed a little bit of help with the creative side of all of the text and copy that I put out there. I also was just writing contracts like on the reg. And I couldn't write all my, newsletters and PDFs and just social media content. I just couldn't do it all. So I hired Anna with The Woods Co., and I'll link her as well. Anna's a phenomenal copywriter. She works with many important people in the industry. So she has a very, very good reputation. And she has been with me, like I said, since, early 2019 when the Legal Paige started. So she knows my voice so well. She knows how I talk. She knew how to pull in like Lauren's communication strategy into amazing new website copy. She knew how to pull what we previously had on our existing website and change it into all of these things TLP has become, as of June 2020. Anna is wonderful with her words. So go hire someone who really knows what to do with words. It was flawless and she totally crushed it. So copywriters are someone to definitely consider for a rebrand because they have a lot to do with what your website is saying to people who land on it. They are going to read words. They are going to read buttons and click on buttons, and you want to make sure all of those say the right things. And then finally, a photographer. So I have a branding photographer and videographer that's basically contracted with the Legal Paige since the beginning of time. She's also a very good friend of mine. And this is where you can really like trade services with friends. I did that for Juliana J Photography. She is based out of Seattle, Washington, actually. Her and I have been really good friends. We were in a mastermind together, and she is just so good at branding photos and video. And I love adding video into TLP. And so you just want to hire someone who can take new photos for you that match your new style and brand aesthetics. And it's really fun to do, new photos and videos too that are like launch or like exciting, photos and videos, GIFs, all the things to use during your rebrand launch process as well. And so don't just think about, okay, these are all the photos I need on my website, but how am I going to launch this thing to the world? And what photos and videos do I need for that? And Jules is a genius at what she does. If you guys have not seen any of my content, just go look. She does all of it. She does the IGTV. She does all the branding photos. She does all the GIFs. She does all the videos. She does it all. And so Juliana J Photography is who I used. But like I said, you guys can hire a friend. You could trade services with a friend. There's all kinds of photographers and videographers out there who are either trying to get into branding photo and video, or they're already in branding photo and video. And you can work with them as well, because you're going to need photos and you're probably going to need some videos as well for your new website and brand redesign. Now, let me just give you a timeline here of what the entire process looked like. So we're going to go back to November 2019. I hired Kelsey with Kindly by Kelsey, who was my branding strategist. I got on her wait list, and then I contacted Lauren Carnes because Kelsey was like, hey, I just worked with Lauren on a project. She was really great to work with. I think it would be really beneficial for you to add like a communication strategist in with all of these big changes that you have for TLP. And so I got on her list as well. And it was nice because we had a bit of time because Kelsey was booked out until April. And it gave me time to tell Lauren, like, this is the time frame I'm thinking. Then Lauren was able to be like, okay, March is when we're going to start. So we can start talking through the beginning phases of your rebrand and communication wise, what that's going to look like. So I started in March with Lauren, and then I started in April with Kelsey. And by the end of April, we had finalized main logos, sub logos, colors, fonts. And then end of April, beginning of May, right after that, we finalized icons and patterns of the new TLP overall aesthetic and brand. And then Anna and Lauren came in at the beginning of May and created all the new copy, and they outlined all of the pages for the website. And then mid-May is when Megan came into the picture. Megan was the website designer. Once copy and all the branding was completed, she came in and she just started working crazily on the website. She finished it within a month. Holla at you, Megan. Good job. And then we launched at the end of June. I had branding photos prior to that. So somewhere in there, if you don't have new branding photos, then you need to have a brand shoot. But Jules and I had already done that kind of at the beginning of 2020 when I was slowly phasing out my pink and bright color aesthetic. And so she came in winter time to just shoot some photos of me. These are the ones that you guys see with like my cute leopard print shirt and my cream jacket, my black jacket. I was wearing more like blacks, tans, browns, creams versus bright pinks and that kind of thing. And so she gave me a lot of those photos and we were able to translate them for the website. But then Jules came again in July to do more branding photos for me. Because what I'm trying to tell you is once you get your branding done and your website ready to go, you might need X picture in landscape format that has more white space on the top right side because that's where the button's going to go on your website kind of thing. I would put in somewhere in that timeline, if you're thinking about rebranding, a brand photo shoot. Okay, money-wise, I want to give you an idea of what you should ballpark for working on rebranding financially. A website designer is usually anywhere from, I would ballpark $2,500 to $5,000. Mine was a much larger project with massive amounts of pages, custom coding, and it was on a Shopify platform, which isn't super well known. So mine was more around about $10,000 plus for my new website design. And then branding strategist is usually around $2,500 to $4,000, and it goes up from there. So they will have packages, and you might find a brand strategist that's even, $1,500 to $2,500 if you're, really budget conscious and you want to work with maybe a new brand strategist that's just trying to get into branding. You just go with what you can, but I'm trying to give you a ballpark here. If you're going to choose like a small package, a branding package to start with, and then you can add on things. So I had to kind of book the largest package because I needed a lot from Kelsey. So it was more expensive. And then I added on a lot of graphics that we really needed for the Legal Paige. You're not going to need a crap ton of product graphics and blog graphics and Instagram story graphics and, podcast graphics and all these things that I needed. So just write a list of like all of the different graphic designs that maybe you create yourself in, say, Canva, and that your brand strategist can create for you. And hopefully you can find that in like a smaller price package, or you can just start, like I said, with the bare minimum, which is logos, sub logos, a new color scheme and palette, and then of course a font suite. So start there, and then you can build upon that if you need to. I also hired a communication strategist, which was about $750 a month. $1,000 a month is what I would budget, somewhere around there. And that includes like my coaching calls monthly, working with my team members on her own as the communication strategist without me. That was a huge blessing, as I didn't have to have my hands in everything. She really did things high level for me. And then voxering back and forth with questions and answers. Website copy is expensive. I want to just give a big shout out to copywriters out there. You are worth your time, and you should invoice and price your work product accordingly. It is necessary that you spend probably $2,500 to $5,000 and up on copywriting. It is expensive, but like I said, it's so worth it. Your words on your website hook the client and customer, and that ultimately results in purchases and a very high ROI. The better the copy, the better the ROI. So it's very wise to spend money there. But like I said, just similar to, a brand strategist, you could find a newer copywriter who's trying to get into copywriting and wants to build their clientele, and it would be much less expensive there. But if you're going to work with someone like Anna, with, Just Jordana, someone who is really well known for copywriting, Ashlyn, of course, all of those copywriters they're more expensive because they have a lot more experience and they know what they're doing and they know how to use their words appropriately. And then finally, photos and videos. So anywhere from probably $500 to $2,500 for a branding photographer and or videographer, depending on the amount of time, sessions, how many photos you're getting back, editing. So Juliana just actually shoots photos for me. And because I have a photography background, she gives me the raws and then I edit. So it saves her hours and hours and hours of work. But then she does edit all my videos. So, she prices that accordingly. So you might be able to just get away with no videographer and you could just do a branding session. Maybe you do one branding session for like $500. That is a good bang for your buck there to really get your redesign, rebrand all fired up with copy and all of your new colors. And then of course you add photos into that and wham, bam, you've got a beautiful website with, of course, the website designer creating that beautiful website. Now, I just wanted to part with you the best advice that I have experienced during this rebrand for any entrepreneur who is really thinking about what this process is looking like. I hope this episode was helpful to you all on really what a large scale redesign process looks like and rebranding can be for your business, how it can really have a good ROI and end result. Here's my best advice, you guys. Start for sure with a brand strategist and a website designer, then add in a copywriter if you can afford it. Try to trade with a photographer for new branding photos, be cautious of your budget. And then a communication strategist is the final hire. If you can afford it, it's totally worth it to have on your rebrand team so that everybody works together smoothly. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you guys, you are the master of your own business. You can hire whichever people you want. You can put on the copywriter hat. You can put on the photographer hat. There's so many ways to create good photos yourself nowadays. Maybe you're probably not a website expert unless you are a website designer. But think of creative ways to trade services. So maybe the redesign, rebrand process doesn't have to be so expensive for your business. I just wanted to give you guys a real, clear, candid opportunity at looking inside my redesign, rebrand process and how kind of a medium-sized business like myself spends their money and budgets accordingly. So all of that to say, I'm going to give you real numbers here. And I really just wanted to be honest and open with you all. That's so important as entrepreneurs to share numbers because we need to be more candid about how we're spending our money and what's the return on investment with that money that is spent, especially with females. I see this a lot with my colleagues in the industry that are females and just, I don't know what it is, but we don't like talking about money as much as men do. So I want to change that trajectory for female entrepreneurs. And let's talk about money. Overall, I probably spent around $25,000 to $30,000, I would say, at the end of the day with my entire rebrand. Please don't spend that much money if you don't have it. Please, please, please don't spend that much money. That's a ridiculous amount of money to spend. If I were to talk to Paige 2 or 3 years ago about, okay, $25,000 is how much you're going to spend on a redesign project, I would have laughed in someone's face. Like, yeah, right. Who's got that kind of money? But I saved and saved and saved and saved. And I knew I wanted to do this. And at the end of the day, I was adding in a bunch of contractors. I was trying to help people. Like I wanted to hire people. I had the extra expendable income to do it, but you don't. So I would budget somewhere, like I said, between like $3,000 to $8,000. I would say like $3,000 to $5,000 is pretty easily feasible for lots of new small business owners. you know that if you want a website and you want logos and you want all of this new, va-va-voom branding, you really are going to spend a little bit. So $3,000 to $5,000 is where I would budget. And the goal behind that, though, you guys, is I am always like, I am not spending money on something that is not going to have a good return. We're going back to that. Your $3,000 to $5,000 should have at least a 5 times return. So you would probably be making anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000, I would say, and then in 3 months of rebranding, that should be a good ROI. For me, we had the week we rebranded and we launched and we had a massive sale. We were able to times, that by that 5 times amount. So it was totally worth me investing that much money into it. And I was able to afford it. And I knew that it would be kind of a cost upfront, but my whole point was to get that cost back plus some, because I wanted that brand redesign to be so, so good that it continually brought people back to the Legal Paige and they recognized the Legal Paige, and it just had this huge brand reputation surrounding it. So that is why we did the rebrand, how we did the rebrand, pricing, team members on the rebrand process. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it was a little bit different. It really had nothing to do with legal things, but I love giving you guys just business tips and suggestions as well. So let me know, DM me, slide into my DMs on Instagram, give me a review for this podcast episode if you loved it, so I can give you more business tips and suggestions if you guys do love it. Again, if you want to chat more about anything business or legal wise, you can come to the TLP community on Facebook. You can find me and my team there all the time. And if you just want to look over what we did with the website Rebrand and Redesign, just go to thelegalpaige.com. That's PAIGE.com. It's a play on words with my first name, and just scroll around. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will be back here shortly in a week or two with a new podcast episode then. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Paige podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpaige.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.